Today we are going to talk about features. This is the next lecture we have in this course. And the outline for this lecture will be, first we will go through some of the basics of features, what features are and why we really need these features. Some of these aspects we have already covered in some of the past lectures, but I will try to briefly touch upon those. Then we will look into key points which are actually useful to extract some of these features. And then we will try to cover two classical approaches to extract features from images. The first one is histogram of oriented gradients. It's a very popular algorithm if you have to extract features from images. And the second one is SIFT features. It's called Scale-Invariant feature transform. So we're going to cover these two algorithms for feature extraction in classical category. And in one of the later lecture after this, we'll see like how we can actually extract these features from, again, images using deep learning approaches. Okay, so let's start. The first segment is we'll briefly cover the basics. And as I said, most of this we have already covered in the past. So I will try to quickly go over these. Now, the question is, what exactly is a feature? So if you think about this in computer vision, what we want is we will have some kind of visual information, or you can say like some data point. It could be an image, it could be like some video, or it could be like any other, like it could be like grayscale image or any other form of input, right? Which you have to analyze or which you have to use to make some kind of predictions. So given that input sample, what you have to do is, given a task, you have to perform that task, right? If it's classification, you will have to say, okay, which class category is present in this image. So we'll have different variations of problems. So to be able to successfully do that, to let's say do even classification, you need to represent that data sample in a compressed format. And that compressed format is called feature. So it won't be like the complete image itself. It will be like some kind of compressed format, which has like sufficient amount of information so that you can solve like a downstream task. Okay, for example, classification, those features will allow you to say, okay, which class category is present in this input image. It could be image, it could be in video. Okay, so those are called features, and these features could be handcrafted. So for example, if I'm saying we are trying to go through those classical approaches, so those approaches are kind of classical algorithms, and you can say like you're extracting handcrafted features, or these features could be learned. For example, when you train your neural networks, you are training that network on large amount of those data points, right? So whatever feature you extract, it's not handcrafted. You didn't design those features. Those kernels which were used to extract those features will be learned, right? So those are called learned features. Okay, so and at the end, we just need a function which will take that image as input and give you these set of features. And it depends like whether that function is like something which you have designed by hand or the function is something like which you have learned. So that's the distinction between these two. Okay, so handcrafted features, it's also called feature engineering. You might come around with this term as well. And learned features are automatically learned. So a high-level categorization of these features, if you have to do that, you can say that some features can be global features, and the other is like local features. So looking at global features, when you're extracting these features, you're actually you have the bigger picture. For example, if you use this image to extract the features, then if you're considering the whole image, each and every pixel present in this image, and extract some meaningful features, those features will be kind of global features. Okay, so for example, like template matching, that's kind of global feature because you are considering the whole image when you perform the matching, right? Even though you are performing point-wise matching, but you use the whole image at once. And similarly, we are going to go through a histogram of gradient features. You can consider them as, and again, when there are different variations, HOG you can also use as local features. But when we are doing image matching, you will say, okay, because you're extracting these features from all over the image, these features will have the global picture. So they are considered as global features. The second variation, as I said, local features. So before going there, we have something intermediate, which you can say like region-based features. And the idea is, in this case, you're not looking at the full image. So you don't have the bigger picture. you're just looking at a small region in that image. For example, this blue bounding box. Okay, and if you extract feature from this small region, you can say that these are region-based features. So if you think about like when you were doing filtering using some kernel, right? You can consider this as like as a kernel as well, a big kernel, which is operating on all these pixel values. So that could have been like a region-based feature extractor for you. And the other extreme is local features. And the idea is you are just describing one pixel or just the vicinity of that pixel. Okay. So you don't have the bigger picture in this case. So the idea is at a high level, if you think about this, if we are looking at global features, then the global picture here is like you have a blue sky, you have like these huge mountains, you have like snow all over these mountains, right? So that kind of at a conceptual level. So global features should try to capture those aspects. Going into region-based features, the idea should be like they should focus on a very small region. For example, in this patch, whether you can say, okay, whether sky is present or not, or what kind of peak is this? Is it sharp? Is it flat? Right? So that mid-level range. And if you go to the other extreme, local features, it should be like, okay, what is the color of that pixel? Or what kind of edges, like what's the orientation of edge in this particular pixel location? So those are like the other extreme of feature extraction. Okay. Now, so that was just high-level categorization of this. Now, the question is, once we have these features, why exactly we need to extract these features from images? And once we have these features, what should we do about these features, right? So as I said earlier, once you have this compact representation of your data point, then you can use these features to solve any task. It could be detection, it could be recognition. You can use these features for tracking and a lot of other computer vision applications. Okay, so then the question is, if like a single set of features can actually solve all these tasks, why do we need like different type of features? And the reason is simple, because different problem domains might have different requirements, right? And different features might be extracting different kind of information. So one simple example I can give you is like, for example, if a feature is actually looking at the colors which are present in your input image, and whatever task you have, if the task depends on the color, so that might require different kind of feature, right? For example, if you have a task like you have images of apples and you want to build like an automatic system which tries to figure out automatically whether you have a green apple or a red apple, right? Then you really don't need like a lot of like detailed features about that image. Just the color information will be sufficient. So in that case, you might need different kind of features, as against like if you have a problem which says that, okay, given an image, you have to identify whether there is apple present in the image or not. So in that case, color might be useful, because you might not have like a very odd colored apple, right? So you won't see like maybe pink apple or purple apple. So color is important there, but again, the shape of that object is also important, which will help you in recognizing whether apple is present or not. So again, depending upon the task, the requirement of these features will change, and that's why we need different kind of features. So let's quickly go through some of the applications where we can utilize these features. So if I give you this image, right, and for you, I think as a human, it's pretty easy. Like you can see, okay, seems like a pentagon, right? And you have like all these roads, you have bridges, you can identify the river, right? So you have some kind of representation like inside your mind, which you construct while you're analyzing this image. And based on your prior experiences, what you have seen in your past, you will be able to make inferences about different aspects of this image. Okay, so matching is one interesting application where the goal is, let's say if I give you just like a small patch of this image, and this patch could be maybe coming from the same image, or this patch could be like a different view altogether. For example, in this case, I have this top view of this building, right? And you can see like this is kind of the image on the bigger image on the right. It's not directly from the top, it's kind of an oblique view. And that's, I mean, you can't just do like a point-wise matching between this patch and this building over here. It won't match. But as a human, we can easily say that, okay, this seems like the same building, and we don't really understand like how we do that, but that's how that's like you can say like one great visual power we have. So now let's try to understand if we have to match this patch and try to figure out where exactly this object is present in this image. So that's called you can say patch matching or image matching. And as I said earlier, since the viewpoint is different, because this is like captured directly from the top and this is an oblique view. So even if you try to do a pixel wise matching of these two patches, it's not going to work. So viewpoint is one reason. The other reason is you can see like the contrast or the color values, right? This seems like kind of washed out, or you can say it could be even grayscale here, but this is like is very colorful image. So even in that case, the pixel values won't match because the values of those pixels will be different. So in that case, features are actually important. If you take this patch, extract feature, then that feature will actually capture like what structure this patch has, right? This pentagon shape. So all different shapes will be captured in that compressed format. And again, if you try to extract the same set of features from patches inside this image, so the idea is that feature representation will be very close for this patch and the features which are extracted from this particular patch, if it's a good feature. Okay, so then that's how you can actually perform this image matching, or you can say patch matching, to figure out where objects are present in your big image. Again, another interesting application of matching, even in this case, you can see like there is like a lot of difference between the kind of the coloring you have, right? Of course, these are like the same objects, it's the same location, but the viewpoint is different. But as a human, you can easily actually match like each statue you can easily match, you can locate. But for a computer vision algorithm, it's a very challenging task. And that's why we have to extract features compressed format, which can save like the structural information which is present in this image. And instead of doing pixel-wise match, we match those features. Okay, so this again is a very interesting application of features. And I think I have a very cool demo for this as well. The idea here is if you have lots of images captured for a location. Okay, so this is a monument in Rome, and these pyramids here are actually showing you the locations, the GPS location from where like images were captured of this monument. And the cone is actually showing you the direction, the viewpoint. Okay, so all these images, and these are just some samples from that set. Now, what you can do is if you have this kind of information, you can extract features from these images, and you can try to actually match those features across images to figure out whether there is some overlap between images, right? And so this is called structure from motion. And given this like set of images, you can actually try to reconstruct this monument. And this is a real world example. I mean, this was done using computer vision algorithm, given all these set of images. So this is pretty cool. Okay, so image matching is like a very key component in this algorithm. The other interesting application is panorama stitching, and I think most of you might have this in your camera itself. So when you are capturing the panorama, so the application will ask you to actually move your phone, right? But what's happening behind the scene is the camera is actually capturing all those images in sequence, and then it's trying to actually match those images which are captured in sequence on top of each other. And this feature extraction of feature matching is being performed in the background so that your image is actually very smooth once it's captured. Because how hard you try, I mean, you will have some shake in your hand, right, when you move your camera. So all of that is actually taken into account when we perform feature matching and when we try to stitch those images together. Okay. Now, another interesting example, I think this is really motivating. And this is showing, given a video, of course, as a human, we can watch the video and we can infer a lot of things about it, like what action is happening or what different objects are present in the video. So a lot of those things. But again, as images, it's very challenging to actually do inference on videos, because first of all, like, it's very complicated, right? It's more complex than video. We have this additional dimension of time. Okay, so let me show you like one very simple representation of videos. And so, for example, this is called like point light displays. And what we do here is, let's say we have a human, a person performing some action. We just identify the joint angles, okay? The joint angles of like the human skeleton. And these white dots on the right are exactly showing that. So this was like a very dense image, right? You have this person, so a lot of information here. But what all we are interested in is just these joint angles. And you can think about like this image will require a lot of memory to save these pixel values. But if you just store these joint angles, it's like just 2 points, like X and Y points for each joint angle. So even if you're storing all the 25 joint angles of human skeleton, you only need 50 numbers. Okay, so that's pretty compressed format as if you compare that with the original image. And this is like another example. Now let's have a look like how this is pretty useful. And of course you can use this for like a lot of other applications. I will just show you like for action recognition. And of course you can use for facial recognition, sign language, and all of those. Of course, the key points will be different there. Okay, so now look at this. So in this case, I'm not showing you any colors, right? It's just black and white image. And what I have done is I've just tried to connect like those joint angles. So it's a very compressed format. And if you look at this, you can say that, okay, a person is walking. It's pretty easy for us. If I compress it further, let's say I don't show you like the connected joint angles. I show you just the joints. Okay, so you can, it's hard. You might not be able to say what's happening there. But if you have some kind of prior knowledge that, okay, you are looking at a person who is walking, then you can guess, okay, it seems like a person is walking. And we can make it denser. And then it becomes more, it's easier, right, as compared to the center one. Now, as a human as well, like it's easy for us, and it's interesting because it's actually solving two purposes. The first is it's actually compressing the amount of memory you require to save your data, right? And the second is it's like a very compressed format of your action, what is happening in your input video. And it will be a lot easier for your computer vision algorithm to determine like what action is happening in this scene, as compared to by looking at like the full RGB image. Okay, so this is one example of how you can represent or how you can extract features from your videos. And it's a very compressed format. All right, so that was just some motivation to show you some applications and some use cases of why features are required. Now, let's try to cover some points like what kind of features you want to extract and what should be like some good characteristics of these features. So the first point is these features should be distinctive. So by distinctive, the idea is like if you're extracting some feature from a location in your image, it should be different from like any other feature you're extracting from the same image. Because if you don't do that, then there is kind of redundancy and it's not like a unique representation of that image. Okay, for example, like for the sky region, you can extract features from all the locations, but the features won't change, because it's kind of a flat surface, right? So all the features will be almost similar. So it's not kind of distinctive as compared to like these dots over here, which are shown. So all of these will be different because you have different kind of texture in these regions. Okay, so that's one property. The second is repeatability. And the idea here is if you have an algorithm which can extract features from a given image, so no matter how many times you try, 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 1,000 times, the extracted features should not change. Okay, so that's called repeatability, because if the extracted features are changing with every iteration, then they are not consistent, they're not useful, right? So they have to be consistent. And the third characteristic is they should be compact and they should be like efficient to extract. So by compact, it means that if you're extracting features from, let's say, a video, it should require less memory than the actual video. Otherwise, you can just save that video itself, right? So for example, the example I showed you earlier, when we were extracting those key points, it was a compressed format. Okay. And it's not just about saving memory, it's also about the generalization capability of those features. And we'll talk about some of those things later on. The second part is efficiency. It should be efficient when you are running that algorithm to extract features. Okay. Because it could be like you have a very, very nice algorithm, very perfect algorithm, but if it takes, let's say, 2 years to extract features from one image, it's useless. We don't need that, right? It doesn't matter how perfect that is. So in terms of computational cost, it should be efficient. And again, that varies from application to application. If you have like some kind of real-time application, then it should be like pretty fast, set in nanoseconds or in milliseconds. So, but it should be efficient. Okay, so this I think we just covered. This is also fine.